class. Sorry I could not be here today. I hope you are on your best behavior. Today we're going to be reading My Favorite Chaperone. So if you don't have your workbook folder, you can pause this video and go get it. All right, you want to make sure that you're opened up to page 193. Also make sure you have a highlighter, I should have said that before, and something to write with so we can annotate. This is a long story. It's more like a mini novel, so it's going to take us several days to read this story. Today we'll get through part of it, and we'll do some together, and I'll have you do some on your own. There'll be points where I'll ask you to pause the video and read some on your own and then restart, and there'll be points that I'll read and follow along. So just have this video going and pause and restart as needed as we get through the video. So again, the title is My Favorite Chaperone. It's a short story by Jean Davies Okamoto. And we have two characters here. We have Maya and her brother Nuzan, and they don't always get along, but they try to help each other out. That's kind of a big part, is family helping each other out. And we are going to start. As always, remember, when we are reading, we want to make sure we know what we're supposed to be doing. So continue to notice and note. You can write anything that you feel is important on the side, maybe even things that I don't write. That's going to be entirely up to you. On the side, there will be things that you should be noticing and writing down, so make sure you know what you're expected to do. So this first one, it says annotate in paragraph 1, mark details that reveal something about Maya. So if it's something that you're going to do, we're always going to circle that so we remember. So after you read paragraph 1, in a few sentences, summarize what you can infer about Maya from these details. So I am going to have you read this first paragraph on your own, and I want you to mark the details. Sorry, that got out of focus. That reveal something about our main character, which is Maya. So go ahead and pause the video, read paragraph 1, highlight ideas about Maya, and if you want to, you can jot something down about what you think that says about Maya. Okay, go ahead and pause that video. All right, so you should have had paragraph 1 highlighted, and we're looking for things about Maya. So here we know she wants to go to the dance. Teacher's passing out the permission slips. She really doesn't want to take one because she's thinking her parents are going to say no. But she wants to be hopeful that maybe they will say yes. However, if we look at this very last statement, it says, my hope was very small. So we can maybe infer something about her parents from that her parents are very strict, but it is asking us to infer something about Maya. So she has very strict parents, and because of that, she's kind of hesitant in class about taking the permission slip, and she's a little nervous or anxious. So if I was to write something down here, I would say that Maya's parents make her nervous or anxious, whichever you want to write, same meaning. So you can write this down. If you ran out of room and you want to write it up here, it's fine. And if I was to say, why do they make her anxious? They make her anxious because they are strict in some of her activities. Now, she wants to go to the dance. Does she think her parents are going to say no? Yes. However, she is not giving up hope, but her hope is small. So she has little hope. That they will let her go to the dance. Okay, if you need to pause the video to get that written, you can. Otherwise, we will continue and turn the page. Okay, so we are on page 194, and we have a memory moment. We've done memory moments before. We did a lot when we read Coraline. So when you notice a narrator interrupting the forward progress of a story to bring up something from the past you found of memory moment. So you are going to notice the sentences in paragraph 2 that help you realize Maya is interrupting her story to recall events from an earlier time. So I'm going to circle 2 so I remember that I need to kind of mark those times where she's kind of going back and remembering. Our statement here is, why might the events described in paragraphs 2 through 7 be important? So this kind of relates all the way down here, and I could circle these, that we have to kind of feel, why are these events important? What does that tell us for the story? So if I'm looking at paragraph 2, go ahead and pause the video and read that paragraph. And then if you want, you can highlight some things that talk about where she interrupts her story and goes on to the past. So go ahead and do that. So if I'm looking here, it's talking about how they're going to come to America. So just noting that, it means that they are immigrants. Right now I don't know where they're from. As I read on, I'm going to know. And she's just explaining why they came to America. And it seems kind of odd that she's talking about an international dating magazine. And then she interrupts the story to kind of tell us why. So she talks about this person called Medina, who is her aunt. And her aunt came after Kazakhstan broke away from the Soviet Union and things got very hard. So she's explaining that they were from Kazakhstan, and I would maybe even just mark that so you know. That's like an Eastern European country, it's near Russia, used to be part of the Soviet Union. So during this time, it was a very hard time. Everyone was getting paid less. Their grandmother died, and their family kind of fell apart. And then the aunt started reading international dating magazines. And we might be thinking, why? Well, if I look back up here, remember that's when they came to America. So now as we read this, we're going to try and think about, why are some of these events important? So follow along. This is kind of a lot of information here. And if you want to mark anything down that you feel is important, I might highlight as we go along, and then we'll answer this question. So the next thing we knew, she had a beautiful photo taken of herself wearing her best outfit, a black dress with a scoop neck and a red silk band around the neck. Aunt Medina is very pretty. Mama says she looks like an old American movie star we saw on TV named Natalie Wood, except Aunt Medina looks more like Kaza with her dark, beautiful Asian eyes. She sent the photo to one of those magazines. In a very short time, a man from Seattle saw her picture. He started calling her, and they would talk on the phone for hours. I guess he had plenty of money for these calls, which Aunt Medina thought was a good sign. After about 6 months, he asked her to marry him. So that's kind of important. So he found her on this dating site. They had lots of conversations, and then he asked to marry. And I kind of marked here that she sent her photo in, and then she met a man from Seattle, which is in America. His name is Bon Campbell, and he'd been in the Navy. He told Aunt Medina he never had a chance to meet anyone because he traveled so much. Maybe that was true, but Mama was worried. So We're assuming that maybe Aunt Medina is Mama's sister because it's Maya's aunt. Medina, something must be wrong with this man if he has to find a wife through a magazine. Mama was afraid for her, but Aunt Medina went to America anyway, so family seems pretty tight and worried. Aunt Medina is just like, I'm going. Nothing's here in Kazakhstan. They're losing money. It's probably not a good situation in their country. So she phoned us a lot from America, and Mama admitted she sounded okay. Medina said Bob was a lot older and had less hair than in the picture he had sent her. He was also fatter than in the picture, but he was very nice. So, sounded so good. Mama stopped worrying about Aunt Medina, but then things got so bad in Kazakhstan that she worried all the time about us. So things are getting worse in Kazakhstan, and Medina seems to be doing well. You might have noticed that her husband maybe didn't present himself in a truthful way, and he was different than the pictures. So Papa and Mama lost their teaching jobs because the government was running out of money. And Mama had to go to the market and sell many of our things, clothes, dishes, some furniture. When Aunt Medina asked us to come to America for the 100th time, we were running out of things to sell, and my parents finally agreed. So Aunt Medina wants them to come. She knows that Kazakhstan is having a lot of trouble. They don't have a lot of money. They lost their jobs. Maya's family is selling everything. Finally, they agreed. So Aunt Medina sponsored us, and not long after we got here, Papa got a job driving a cab, and Mama worked cleaning houses. It was hard for them not to have respect that they were used to from holding government teaching jobs, but they had regard for food they could now easily buy at the store. So this last statement says, finally, they have no problem buying food. They have jobs. They're not maybe what they would consider respectable jobs, but they have jobs. Right here it talks about the word sponsored. So since Maya's family is from another country, a lot of times you need to be sponsored by someone who is actually living in the United States to support that group so you can get into the country, in a legal manner. So this kind of explains that right here. If you sponsor someone, you support his or her admission into a group, and this would be kind of their admission into America, having someone that says, yes, they're coming to America, we know them. All right, so we have one more paragraph that we're going to read, and then we're going to answer this question. So let's turn the page. 6 months after we got here, the Boeing company moved to Chicago, and Mr. Bob got transferred. Oops, you guys can't see that. Got transferred there. When Aunt Medina left with him, it broke Mama's heart. Aunt Medina was the only person we knew from Kazakhstan, and it felt like our family just huddled together on a tiny island in the middle of America. So Aunt Medina left. Boeing is remember he was a pilot. It's an airline company. And here, after they left, the family kind of just feels like they're all by themselves. Because Aunt Medina was the only person that she knew. So I'm going to flip back here and answer this question. I want you to think about it. You might have some ideas that you can write on your own. The events in paragraph 2 through 3, why are they important? If I think about what just happened here, this whole thing gives me the background of maybe why they came to America and why they left Kazakhstan. So I would say it explains why they left Kazakhstan and came to America. Okay, after the Soviet Union broke up, the government was having some hard times, losing money. And we realize here that Grandma was the person that held them together. So they stayed in Kazakhstan despite it being really bad and them having to sell everything. So when she died, they left. And then when Medina left, Maya's family felt very lonely in the United States. Okay. If you need to pause the video to get that done, go ahead. And we're going to continue to paragraph 8. And again, we want to make sure that we're looking here. It says, mark the details in paragraph 8 that reveal the story's main conflict. Describe the story's conflict in one sentence. So here, paragraph 8, what I want you to do is to read this on your own and then mark down what you feel is the story's main conflict. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so if we're looking here, you may have this highlighted, and the main conflict, you should have written something to the effect of Maya wanting to attend the spring dance, but is worried her parents won't give her permission. That's kind of her main conflict. Okay, pause the video if you need to finish that up. All right, paragraph 9. But there's another reason why I love gymnastics. Okay, finding more out about Maya. Shannon Lou is on the team. We became friends. When she was a teaching assistant in my ESL class, we're the same age. Okay, so ESL means maybe they didn't know the language very well. They're learning it. They're the same age. That gives us some information on them. But she says, I'm like her little sister. Her grandparents came here from China. Okay, it gives us an information that she also is from a different country, and her parents speak perfect English. Everything about Shannon's family is very American. Her mother had a red coat with gold buttons from Nordstrom, and her father cooks and sometimes even washes dishes. I couldn't believe this when I first saw it. No, Kazakh man would do kitchen work. Shannon encouraged me to try out for the gymnastics team. This is kind of important here. The team has meant even more to me this year. I got put in the mainstream and had to leave ESL. Since I left ESL, I also feel like I'm in the middle of a game where I don't know the players, the rules, or even the objects of the game. So this means, she came to the United States, maybe she didn't speak English, and she was in a special class with where they were learning English, and now they feel she's ready to be in the regular classroom. Here, we really don't do that at our school where we separate students coming in. They just get put right in the mainstream. So she's just put in there, and she feels a little left out. If you wanted to write anything down on the side about her loving gymnastics or her friend Shannon, you can. We're going to move on to paragraph 10. In the next class, language arts, even though I knew it was foolish, I was dreaming of the spring fling. I really like language arts. Miss Coe, our teacher, is also our gymnastics coach. So that kind of helps with the connection. And there's a guy in class, Daniel Klein, who was my partner for a research project last semester. He encouraged me to talk and listen to what I had to say. He's also a very handsome guy. and I always look forward to his class so I can see him. I was trying to think of some idea to convince Mama and Papa to give permission, and also sneaking glances at Daniel Klein, when Mr. Walsh, the vice principal, came into our class and he whispered something to Miss Coe, and she nodded. And then I was stunned because she nodded and pointed at me. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I want to notice this here. It says mark words and phrases in paragraphs 11 through 17 that show how Maya is feeling. And what do the words reveal about her feelings? So 11 through 17 sounds like a lot, but it's not. You are going to read 11 through 17 on your own and highlight anything that shows how she is feeling. Go ahead and pause the video and do that at this time. Okay, so if I'm looking here, we know that she has to go to the office. I'm going to highlight that, but we can just maybe make an assumption that she's probably maybe worried about that. But as we go, you might have had tingled with fear, wondering what's wrong, wondering what she had done. She felt like a robot. Her heart began to bang. She felt like she needed to go to the bathroom. She felt such terror she could hardly speak. You know, she's asking what's wrong. There's lots of things that she's very nervous. So here, she's afraid she did something wrong. And she's usually good, so this is making her very nervous. So if you got called down to the office, you have no idea, and you're thinking, what in the world did I do? That's kind of how she's feeling. So I suddenly remembered Sunstar Savis, who was in my ESL class last year. Her family came to Cambodia on her first day at Beacon. She was in the wrong line in the lunchroom. And Mr. Welch went to help her, and he tapped her on her shoulder to get her attention. When she felt the tap and saw him, she lifted her hand in the air as if she were being arrested and about to be shot. People who saw this in the lunchroom laughed, but it wasn't a joke. Sunstar was filled with terror. I knew I wouldn't be shot, but walking with Mr. Walsh to the office seemed like one of the longest walks of my life. Just another note that she's very nervous. I often filled my mind with nice things, such as imagining myself at the Olympics winning gold medal for USA, especially on days like today, when we have gymnastics meets after school. But now my mind was filled with nothing. It was empty, like a dry river bed where there's only one crack, baked earth, nothing lives. I walked to the main office where Mrs. Johnson was waiting for me. Come in with me, Maya, Miss Johnson smiled at Mr. Welsh. Thank you, Tom. Like a person made from wood, a puppet, I followed Miss Johnson through the main door, down the hall, to her office across from the principal's. She showed me in and closed the door behind us. Okay, I would like you to read the rest of the page on your own. Highlight anything that you feel is important or that you want to note about what's going on. And when you're done, come back. Okay, so you should have found out what happened, and this is what happened, that her brother was suspended for fighting. And they're trying to contact the parents, but they can't. So they're going to ask Maya to help out. And if we look here, one of the reasons is if you're suspended, you have to have a parent or guardian come in. So they're asking her to help find out here. So I might find that they figure that Maya's responsible, so they're going to have her do it. You know, we're not sure. Okay, so we're going to get her response and see what she said. You know, she's very nervous. So she says, sure, she'll do it. Do your parents speak English? Just a little. Then perhaps you could attend the meeting and translate. So now they're asking, once you find, can you translate? And as I'm looking here, it says, annotate, Nazir's suspension creates a complication in the plot. Mark the reasons that Miss Johnson wants Maya to attend the meeting. Kind of right here, because maybe her parents don't speak English very well. And what can you infer about her role because of that? So we're going to continue and we'll get some more answers. Yes, I must always do this for my parents. At the store, at the doctor, things like that. Here's the phone. I'll step out to give you some privacy. So here we can assume that Maya's asked to translate a lot. And maybe she has to go places that she doesn't want to, so she can do this. Miss Johnson left the office quietly, closing the door behind her. I looked at the nameplate on her desk. Katherine Johnson, it said. Outside her window, the sky was gray, and it had started to rain. I stared at the phone, wishing I didn't have to be the messenger with this bad news. Then I called the Northwest Cab Company and asked them to contact my father. At Beck Elzazul, Cab 191. I'm his daughter, and there's a family problem I must speak to him about. I stayed on the line while the dispatcher radioed Papa. I looked at the clock and felt my heart growing heavy. In a minute, the bell would ring. School would be out, and the gymnastics meet would begin. Maya, Papa's voice alarmed. What is wrong? Nurzan has been in a fight with another boy. Then I explained in Russian what had happened, and Papa said he had to drop his passenger at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown, and then he'd come straight to Nazir's school. He'd be there at about 3:30. Miss Johnson came back into the office as I hung up the phone. Did you get your mother? I don't have the number where she works today, but I got my father, and he'll be at school. Good. All right, so we are going to stop right here. Sorry, stop. And if you feel that there's anything that you would like to mark or highlight, I'm just going to mark this, that she's telling the dad, and that she had to explain in Russian. That just kind of shows what happens. Okay. I'm assuming there's not going to be much time left, but if there is, you may work on your paper or free read or do something quiet. And I will see you on Monday. Bye.